Let's look at what you think about what your friends and others think about you. How do you regard what they think about you? You know, we all want to feel good about ourselves. If you don't feel good about yourself, you're frustrated and depressed. And one way we can attempt to feel good about ourselves, if we don't really down deep regard ourselves very highly, is to show that we are better than someone else. You're smarter. You wear better clothes. You're better at athletics. You're stronger physically. If you're stronger physically, you might want to convince lots of others to support whatever cause you have. You want other people to really agree with what you're doing. I call this votes, and we'll get into that a little bit later. If you get enough people convinced and you feel powerful enough, this might even lead you to consider becoming a bully. So let's look at how you feel about being a bully. If you are a bully now, or you're feeling the urge to become one, notice that down deep there's something that hits you in the wrong way. Something just doesn't feel right about that. And again, this is a nudge from your heart. It's a feeling. The fact is that by being a bully, you are trying to feel good about yourself by taking advantage of someone else. You are feeling good at their cost. You are stealing their self-respect. You are causing them to be even further down on themselves. And bullying can come in a lot of different flavors. It can be based on race or skin color. They're fat or they're skinny. It can be how they believe, including their religious belief systems or the way their family dynamics are compared to yours. It can be their sexual orientation, whether they're gays or lesbians, and the ideas that you have about that. It can be based on their clothes. It can be based on their shoes. What kind of shoes does she wear or he wear? It can be based on the color of their socks. Choosing to be a bully is always a head thing. It would never be supported by the heart. The head thing tells you that you want the feeling of power and control. You want to feel like you can control others. Does this work well for you? Does it work well for them? How do you feel about being bullied? I've been there, and I can tell you it's no fun. Many, in fact, I would say most people who are bullied are already down on themselves. When you add being bullied to already being down on yourself, the problem list really gets a lot longer. There is shame, there's embarrassment, there's the feeling that you want to withdraw from the world in general. You want to just crawl into the closet and shut the door and lie down on the floor. It certainly is one of the most important thought processes leading to suicide. It definitely does not work for the bullied person. So, how do you feel about dealing with others who are bullied? I have to believe that deep down, even the worst bully in the world must feel some compassion. The bullied person needs to be much braver than the bully. Look what they're putting up with. I mean, many times the bully has got lots of other people on, quote, his side, unquote. So it's 5 or 10 against 1. It's real easy to pick on that one when you're stronger than just one person. It takes guts to keep going if you're the bullied person. And I would suggest to you that a word of encouragement or a pat on the back can be appreciated more than you might ever know. And it probably won't cost you a thing. How do you feel about using drugs or alcohol or tobacco? I guess smoking usually starts out as an experiment or the will to look or feel macho. I guess people with a cigarette hanging out of their mouth, they're macho somehow or other. I'm not trying to be critical, and I'm not trying to pick on you by making these statements that I'm going to make here in the next several minutes or so. I'm not trying to do that at all, I promise you. These are things that we have discussed, other teenagers and I'm just sharing you some of what we have discussed in the past. So if you're thinking about smoking, I strongly suggest that you check with a friend or somebody you know who's been smoking for a while before you seriously get into this. I have heard very few people who are smokers who are honestly glad that they decided to start to smoke. It may be enjoyable for the short term while you've got the cigarette and you're feeling the effects of the nicotine, but it definitely doesn't work for the long term. It's very expensive to both your health and your pocketbook, and it is extremely difficult to quit. I have dealt with high numbers of people who have felt that they had to stop smoking or had to stop using alcohol. And I'm surprised at the number who say smoking cessation is much harder than getting off the drugs or the alcohol. So how do you feel about drugs and alcohol? Many times this is an attempt to escape from problems. If I get high or smashed, I can run away from it and it doesn't seem to bother me as much. But notice that it's always there when you get done with the effects of the drug or the alcohol. It never works. And again, you have the health and the money problems. You might think that you'll get away with using drugs or with being drunk as far as the law is concerned, but it's much more likely that you will get caught. And even worse than that, while you're under the influence, you are much more likely to be involved in an accident, possibly injuring or causing a death of yourself or others. And there's one final thing that I really think needs to be addressed. How do you feel about texting while driving? For virtually all of us, everyone that I've ever known anyway, our brain is capable of concentrating on one thing at any given time. I realize that people can multitask, but while you're multitasking, you're taking care of one little thing at a time. Texting while driving, you will either text or drive, but you won't do both. And if you try to text while you're driving, that really increases the probability of a very serious accident. How do you feel about needing the approval of others? I call this getting votes. This goes